We've had also where we were having sex and a past life experience came up, and she went into full intensity of remembering that moment, and we needed to stop. And then we ended up going back into it. She was like, wow, this is so amazing. But different things, so many different things can happen when you're in the full breadth of it, when you're actually giving yourself the capacity to hold anything that can come up, anything that can occur, and not needing it to look a certain way, but allowing all of it to be held. It's such a beautiful invitation for your queen to be like, I got you. No matter what you're experiencing, no matter what's happening, I got you. And we can always stop. We can always pause. And if you love it, we can keep going. But all of it to come up. Ooh, welcome to the Ignite You podcast.
Stories of transformation,
initiation,
depth,
and duality.
With a sprinkle of sass. Cheers.
Cheers, dude.
Brother man.
Mm-hmm. And welcome
to the Ignite You podcast.
Wow, okay, that's the intro.
It's already done.
You've heard the intro twice
I don't know why. I just wanted to say it.
It wanted to come out, and that's okay.
We're about full expression, so.
Let it move. Let it come through.
God, it just has to flow.
Yes. We've got such a juicy episode today.
The juiciest.
This is one we've been wanting to go into for a little while now. And it is one that both of us love speaking about. We love speaking about all things pleasure related, obviously. If you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that.
About every third episode is about pleasure in some sort.
Yeah. Basically, every episode comes back to pleasure in some sort.
Basically, every episode comes back to sex.
Because it's
outside of when we have guests, but then we still try to get them to talk. It's like, hey, but what's going on?
Do you edge?
But do you edge? but really, what's your prostate
we've
pleasure
only had
practice
men
like?
on so far, so
we have.
Well,
and you've given them all wands.
Yeah, and that's going to change soon, though. We're going to have women on here soon.
Yes.
Maybe
there will have been a female episode by now.
Yeah.
Maybe
based on how we order these.
Based on how we're ordering them, yes.
We'll see.
Is no rhyme or reason to this madness.
Well, there's some rhyme and some reason because yesterday we recorded an episode that was specifically for the men's pleasure.
Yeah.
And today is an episode for the queen's pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted those to be paired together. All the pleasure.
And so why did we want to do this episode, Ryan?
Because we love pleasure.
And Lauren also provided a lot of good context on why this is needed from a feminine's perspective.
Yeah, so Lauren is my partner. And it's something, we talk about often. And both Cam and I have partners where they haven't really experienced somebody who can hold or witness their pleasure. And somebody who can be with them in a sexual experience or just an aroused experience or sensual and be able to hold that and be able to go into that. And this is something both Cam and I love. And it's something that we get to explore with the women in our lives, the ones that we choose as our partners. But Lauren brought this up recently and was saying, you should go into this topic because her and I go into it and it's super fun. It seems super normal for us, but it's something that is usually talked about by women, what women experience as pleasurable. It's less often talked about by men and the men's perspective of what it is to hold a woman in their pleasure, what it is to have somebody that you see as your queen and to allow them to be in that space, coming or not. We were going to call this episode How to Make Your Queen Come. We changed it because we'll get into it. It's not about the coming. It's about the pleasure.
Truth.
So those are some little nuggets about why this is coming up and why this is important to us because we're both exploring this with our current partners. Mm-hmm. And we both come from backgrounds of not doing this at all. The opposite.
Like the worst.
Just race to the finish line.
Yeah, exactly.
I was pretty quick.
Dude, I was the fastest, man. I was so quick.
And that's not,
that's very pleasurable, right?
Seconds of pleasure, baby.
Seconds of pleasure, baby. Yeah, and I love that. And I think...
Do you love that?
I love it so much, man. I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's also very important to come back to the importance of sexual energy. And there's a reason why we talk about sex a lot in this podcast, and that's because our relationship with sex represents our relationship with creation. And the more in tune we become with our sexual energy, the more we harness our sexual energy, the more we find juiciness in life, the more we find more creative abilities, the more we really start to dance and really enjoy life for what it is. And so a lot of people turn away from this topic because it's taboo for whatever reason. And we're firm believers that it's a pillar in igniting your life. It's a pillar in you really coming alive. you really coming alive in life. It really truly is. And so we keep coming back to it because there's so many codes to share, but there's also such an invitation for society as a whole to deepen their connection with this type of practice. And the title of this episode, the content we're about to share, it's going to trigger the out of some people. Yeah. It really, really will. And some people are going to be like, who do these guys think they are to do a podcast like this? And really that's a manifestation of resistance. That's fear, right? And Ryan said it beautifully. We were not this way. This was not something that we just innately had. It's something that we've continuously worked on, and something that him and I talk about a lot and share about with each other a lot, and really evolve with each other through. So I thought I'd add that little piece about how it really relates to coming alive, to igniting your life. It's super important.
I love that as well. Wow, how many times do we say I love that every episode?
But we just love what each other says. Unless says. Yes, I have a little bit of a 90s diva inside of me. Okay, it might also
and I
seem
honor
like
that.
a flamboyantly gay man inside. I think in a past life I was like just a raging gay dude.
Wow, raging. like angry? Or
well, no, just so intensely gay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
Yeah, because it comes out in these amazing... I see it in you too.
Yeah, sure. But you're the one that said a sprinkle of sass, right? You said that in the intro.
And you were the one that was like, that sounded amazing.
I did say that.
And
okay.
You laughed at it.
That's
pumped
fair.
It up.
Yes. And I appreciate what you were saying. I appreciate what you were saying because it's true. And I was talking about this with somebody this past week as well, but how you have sex is how you live life.
Yeah.
And it's
I think I
true.
said that the other day.
Well, I think, I said it first and then you maybe repeated
I think that I said it. That was my quote.
For sure. You're the first one to ever say that. ever. Nobody said it before.
I actually said how you have sex is how you do everything in life.
How you do anything is how you do everything. You made that up.
Amazing.
Good job.
Just saying.
It is true though, and it's felt, and I can see based on how I've explored sexually in my life, and then where else I was limited in my expression, where else I was limited in my pleasure, where else was I not allowing myself to fully open up, be seen, or be in my power, as a man. And so there's a lot of it was coexisting and connected to my relationship to sex.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to anchor that in before this isn't just about sex. This isn't just about the act of being in the container of sexual energy. This is about how you live. This is about your life. And I love how you bring it back to that because it's so true. Because how we're engaging with our partner, with our queen or with our king in this sexual union really does show up everywhere in our relationship and then beyond.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to anchor that in to feel that first and foremost.
Most deaf. I love that.
Thanks.
I love it when you say that.
So let's get into it. The first piece that we feel is important is based on the episode we just did, which if you're a man listening to this is important. To hold your queen in her capacity of feeling pleasure, you have to know your own. And you can read anything, you can hear anything, you could hear this, and we can share a bunch of things to do and how to be. But if you don't embody these things, you don't try them on yourself first, and first explore your pleasure, and first explore what it feels like for you to be erotic, then you're not going to be able to get into this space with your queen or to be able to truly, truly hold that. Because you can tell when something's being replicated and then brought in, like a man that watches porn and then goes and has sex with their partner. You can feel the inauthenticity in that experience. I know because I would do that with previous partners and they would reflect that back to me. It wouldn't feel authentic. It would feel forced and fake. But to be able to really know your true pleasure as a man and to connect with that, which we have a whole episode on that. We'll probably put in the link here as well, which we just did. It's essential. Like first and foremost, you got to own your pleasure, got to know yourself, got to tap into those codes with you before you try to do that for somebody else. Yeah.
It's key. And you know, it's so funny because we'll bypass this and we'll ignore this so much because we don't actually know how to love ourselves as humans. We don't know how to pleasure ourselves as humans. We're not taught this as young children. And you know, if one doesn't know how to massage their own body and like explore their own body, you're not going to know how to do that for somebody else. You're going to go right to what you're saying, this replicated idea of what you should do. And most often it's not going to work very well. So, you know, the key is getting juicy with yourself. Really, truly getting juicy with yourself and giving yourself the space to do so. Because all of the stuff we're about to share, it's got to be replicated in some way within you. Yeah. If you don't, it won't work. It can't be like, oh, these guys said do this thing, so I'm gonna go do this thing. It's like, no, you got to learn. It's like massaging yourself. It's like you don't really know how hard your pressure is until you do it to yourself. Yeah. Right? Until you really truly feel what that feels like. And so the invitation's there. You gotta lean in.
And the big piece that you were saying, but I'll echo, is feeling your own energy. Like to be able to tap into your energy first and foremost and feel yourself and what's alive in your body is essential to actually be able to tune into your partner.
Totally.
Like that's something that over and over again, I need to even come back to. Be like, am I just doing this because I think I should do it? Or am I really tuning into her body? Am I really checking in with that? And so my personal practice, I have to go deeper with myself. Am I just doing this because I think this is what I should do? Or am I really listening to my body and what I want? So replicating that with your partner, with your queen. Because every queen's different. We got a bunch of different queens out there in the world. Each one is unique. So we get space for that.
I like to think of the female body as an instrument. Yeah. That I want to learn how to play. Yeah. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes learning. You got to understand. And like Ryan's saying, each one is a different instrument.
You're a conscious player? Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I said.
Well, you said that. You said you want to play, right?
I just want to be a spiritual like that's why I'm here.
Wow.
That's why I'm here.
The truth comes out. Yeah, and that's okay.
For sure. I'm in partnership, but like she doesn't know.
Oh my God.
I'm not. We're not putting this live. No, it's not airing out.
No, we'll cut it. We're
gonna cut it out, right?
Yeah, this won't be in. All
right, cool. But we're gonna change the topic here. When people chirp you, just go with the chirp. You know,
yeah, of course.
Deepen your hole that you're digging.
Just say yes and.
So the second thing that we want to drop into, and this is something that I believe and Ryan believes is the foundation to all of this. Okay? And it's understanding that we want to enter a sexual experience without an outcome. We do not want to have an outcome in mind. The most common outcome is in the word. It's an outcome to come. We don't want to have an outcome based on coming. We do not want that. We want the outcome to be pleasure, to be exploration, to be openness. If there's an expectation or an idea of where something has to go, as the man or as the woman, it applies pressure. It applies resistance. It brings the head into a somatic expression, into an embodied expression. So really going in with a mindset of openness, of exploration, of play, it's going to change the game.
Yes. Outcome with outcome.
Outcome with outcome. I knew you wanted to say it, so I held back.
I love it.
I know. It's your favorite slogan. He's got it tattooed on his lower back.
Yeah, I do.
He's got tramp stamp.
It's amazing. That's my saying for life. If you go on my Instagram, that's what it says. It's important because it's like the old saying of enjoying the journey, not the destination. And so it's simplified in that sense of just be able to explore that. And I know firsthand as a man in the past, it can really feel like, but if I don't make her come, that means I'm not good enough. That means I'm not yada, yada, whatever. It could feel like that. Yes. You have to be able to accept that bullshit story that isn't true at all. Be able to toss that away and prioritize your queen's pleasure over you being validated by them coming.
And here's the ugly, ugly truth about that. Because of that belief, because of that insecurity, so many women fake it.
Yep.
They fake it because they don't want men to feel emasculated. It's because there's this idea of coming needing to be the outcome. We dictate our sexual experience, the beauty of our sexual experience in an unconscious mindset based on an outcome. Mm-hmm. Did you come? Okay, great. Awesome. If you're having that conversation, you're missing out.
Yeah.
There is no outcome. It's purely a connection, an exploration. It's like, can we just play? And that's been what I love about Temple and about the tantric space is this concept of play. It's not it's not like, oh, like I want to make you come, even though that, we'll talk about how this stuff fits in when we get into like the tools and stuff later, but it's really important to just come at it from this, like, do you want to play? Mm-hmm. You want to get naked and roll around in some coconut oil and just play. We'll bring out some toys. We'll try some things and we'll just play. That right there, it creates a beautiful, beautiful space.
Yeah, it's really important in this container of connection to not need to perform in that way. And I know even...
For both sides.
Both sides. Yeah, even as a man, hearing that, you're like, wait, but I'm not erect. Don't I need to be erect to have that kind of experience? And I used to have that same block as well. But being able to play like that and being able to let arousal come and go and in different ways, it's beautiful and it's natural and it's real, right? It's not this forced thing to try to perform or set it up in a certain way. And to not make it feel like your queen has to perform for you. If that's something you're into, we're going to get into that. That's kinky and we like it. But you communicate that and you go into that space. And on the flip side, if you want to talk about, I've never come from this thing, let's explore it. Yeah, that's amazing. But being able to be open to the exploration and not needing it to be a destination, not needing it to be the thing that happens. But if you're like, ooh, I want to try a clitoral orgasm or I want to try a G-spot orgasm, let's see what that could feel like and what we could do there to play with it and potentially make it happen. But that even openness around it is what's necessary. So we're saying to not identify with that and be able to explore the pleasure. But if you want to gamify it, that can always be fun, but not need to have like a win or lose situation there. But that goes into the next point, which is communication. Communication, which we like the play on words here. And it's so important to communicate.
People are going to be able to use this episode as like a drinking game or whatever.
Yeah.
For like every
How
time
many
we
times
say come, you drink.
Yep. Come on now, man. That's not a good game. But it's communication through and through. Like, it has to happen beforehand, and it has to happen. It can happen during, it can happen after, but it's essential to set the tone with communication to create safety. We have to. And so we're talking about like outcome with outcome. Talk about that. Like, yeah, I don't even need to have an orgasm this time. I remember the first time my partner presented that to me. She's like, I actually want you to come, and I don't want to come. I want that to happen, like sexually. I want you to like penetrate me. And I want you to come, and I don't want to come. I want to see what that feels like.
The counter is just going. It's like, boom,
you're
boom, boom.
adding them up. I love it, dude. It's good. I'm trying to see how many times I could say it. But even hearing that was a different thing. I've never heard it verbalized like that. I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. She's like, yeah, let's just see what that looks like to not have any pressure. And it was this completely different experience. And to be able to communicate these things, to be able to set the tone. There's so much we can go to around communication, but there's some good bridges there.
The big one here that we talked about before the episode was also understanding, fear, understanding, what does your partner like? What does your partner dislike? Really starting to have your queen feel heard. Like if you begin with opening up the space for her to really share her fears, her insecurities, the challenges, and for you to see that and hold that and be like, girl, I got you. Like I'm here as a pillar for you in this experience. I'm here as a pillar to listen. One of the things that I found that's been really important, and it's actually, I brought it from breath work. It was, if at any moment you want to stop or you want to take a break or it's not feeling right, or if I do something that you don't like, just tell me, just say it. And we'll stop right away. We'll talk about it. We'll unpack it. We'll go in. It's very similar to breath work in a session where you say, hey, if I come and apply body work to you and you don't like it, tell me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. This is really good feedback. This is good research. This is me learning how to play that instrument. Right? So really creating the container of safety and communication is everything. And how, like, so many people, dirty talk's a whole other thing. We can get into that. But so many people don't talk when they're having sex. They don't communicate, and I know there's some freaks out there that are really into their dirty talk. And I know you're probably listening and be like, I'm f***ing vocal as shit. But most people, the majority of people don't really talk. And we're going to get into like the orgasm side of things, but so often I have helped my partner come to climax simply from whispering affirmations into her ear. You are my queen. You are my goddess. You are safe. You are held. This feels so good. I love being inside of you. Like all, like using my voice and talking to her to create this place of safety. So it needs to happen beforehand and during, and we'll get into a little post after, but it needs to be throughout the whole experience.
Yeah. The big thing here is honoring the yeses and honoring the nos. Yeah. And celebrating the out of all of them. Yeah. Because
which we talk about all the time.
Always speak to it. And this is where it becomes really, really important, because there can be sexual trauma. There can be sexual fantasies that want to play out. There can be so many different things that if you don't ask and you don't create the space before connecting sexually to be like, okay, what if we want to create a safe word? What do we want to do if this happens? What is it that you would really want to do if you could have anything in the sexual space? What would it look like? And being able to express those desires and fantasies creates safety. Being able to express, oh, I wouldn't be into that, or I've never done that, but I'd be open to trying it, creates safety. Being able to express, like you're saying, during, hey, let's pause. And being able to communicate that and naming that beforehand, like, hey, just so you know, there would be nothing taken personally if we can communicate, stopping, pausing, quitting for now, this experience, being able to talk during, that is not personal. I want to be able to go into that with you and create the space to honor the yeses and the nos beforehand. It creates so much space for safety, and it opens up complete consent. It's like, I want to be here and I want to give myself fully to you. And I know you want to give yourself fully to me. I'm showing up for every single part rather than just like, oh, let's just hook up and let's do this thing. Being able to communicate beforehand is essential. Creating safety is essential. That's the only way you can get really into the kink, into the weird, into the wild, into the fullness of what sexuality can be.
That's the only way you open, right? And I love using that analogy because it's like the more your queen opens, the more pleasure comes. But it's impossible to open if we're protective, if we're fearful, and that's why I love seeing, connecting with my queen as it's an energetic dance. It's not it's like, how do I approach this from an energetic perspective? You know, when you go to touch someone in breath work, for instance, it's interesting. There's a lot of kind of cross-pollination here between like sexuality and like a powerful breathwork session because you're working with similar energy. But if you go in a breathwork session and you're a facilitator, I know a lot of facilitators in training and stuff are also listening. This is a really good code. It's like if you go and you put your hand on someone really intensely, they're going to close, right? You do it to a dog, you do it to anybody. It's like an energetic boom. It's like, oh, it's jarring. But if you go and you move very slowly and very loving through each layer of the energy body, and then you connect with the physical body softly, it opens, right? It opens and it receives you. And this is so key to pleasuring your queen. You want her to receive you. And she cannot receive you energetically if she doesn't feel safe. She will stay closed and you'll just go through the motion.
And verbally, how that can look is if, you know, you're doing foreplay, and we'll get into all the things there. But if you're wanting to know that, you can communicate, is your body ready to receive me? You can communicate before you penetrate the person you're with. You can really communicate that in a beautiful way, not in a way that's jarring of like, you ready to get like that. And maybe
you shouldn't say that, man.
Sometimes
depends on the
depends on the
vibe. Depends on the situation.
But really,
how much leather's involved.
Like, if there's leather, that's what I'll say.
Yeah.
But if there's not leather,
you're holding the paddle or not holding the paddle.
That's true. But it's like, is your body ready to receive me? It's something along these lines. Like, is your yoni ready? And be able to connect with that space.
Do you want me to enter you now?
Yeah, that's very clinical. But
well, no, but I say that.
You say that?
I'll be like,
will you space it out like that each
do
word?
You want me to enter? I'll actually type it.
Wow.
Send it in text.
Okay.
No, but even saying like, are you ready for me to enter you?
Yeah,
I will say
sense.
that. I'll be like, are you ready for me to enter you? And then if she's like, yes, please, it's like, you've done something right.
Yeah.
Right? And we'll get into more of the tools, but I do ask that very frequently.
Yeah, same. You got to be ready. Yeah, because you can listen to the body so much, but still, arousal does not mean readiness.
No.
And that's so important. It doesn't matter if the yoni's wet.
It's like, oh, she's wet. It's time to go. It's
like that's not what that means at all. And so communicating that is important. And also checking in with your partner beforehand, being like, how much would you want communication here? Like, what feels good for you? Because some people don't like a lot of verbal communication during the time. Like, I don't really want to speak. So there's different ways to make these agreements and check in. But a good way to do it is to literally just ask in a way that's, connected to the moment, not just abrupt. But
and that leads beautifully into another little piece of communication, and that's knowing your role. Because we talk a lot about dom and sub play.
Yeah.
And as predominantly a dom, my partner wants me to take charge.
Yep.
But I know that she's, and every time I've been with a sub, she's always like, I want you to take charge and lead this experience. So, and I think this is really important because in most relationships, in most, not all, but in most relationships, I would say the male will generally play more of a dominant role than the female. At least 80-20 in most relationships. So it's really important that as men, if we've gotten that invitation to be like, take charge, this isn't like be a brute fucking bullheaded dude. This means like, with reverence and honor and integrity, take charge. But it means you got to really own that role and communicate how you want to communicate and be like, hey, I'm taking charge here. What do you, are you ready for this? Want to do this?
Yeah.
How does this feel? Right? And really taking that domination role to another level.
Yeah.
Getting clear on that.
Are you ready to receive your daddy? Like these kind of things where it's really just
some chicks. Dude. This is when the bro comes out, right?
I know.
It's like you start talking. Some chicks don't like that shit, man. Some women don't like.
Of course, this is the dom and sub thing. Of course.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, some chicks hate that, man.
Wow. I'm saying it. My partner fucking loves it.
Yeah.
So going into that, and like it's just agreeing on what feels good and being able to explore what feels good. When I first met her, she never called anybody daddy. She's like, that weird. I don't think I would like that. I'm not into it. Then, first time we connected sexually, it came out of her mouth. And she was like, I actually really like that.
Yeah.
And so it's just creating space. Of like, I never was like, I need you to say it to me. You better say it. It's like, no, that's not it. That's traumatizing. Jesus. But it's creating space for it to feel good if it does. And not being like, ooh, that was weird that you said that. It's like, no, that felt good when you said that. And if it did for you as well, let's keep saying it. I'm into it. And we get to go into these spaces that are potentially new, potentially unexplored, and just giving space for it. Like Cam's saying, with reverence in that place. Even though she's calling me that, doesn't mean I'm taking advantage of her all the time and doing things. It's like we create reverence in a container.
It's all
with
intentional.
An agreement. And there's so much love there.
Yeah.
And that is what's necessary. We need to communicate these things.
Well, and that's the essence of BDSM, right? So many people see that and they're like, wow, how could someone ever want to be like struck or whipped or any of these things? And it's intentional.
Yeah.
The person says, I would like for you to whip me because I like that. Okay. That has been communicated. That's a known thing. And then that's why there's safe words. That's where there's we're all about honoring your yes and honoring your no. It's super key. But the key to all of this that underlies everything we are saying is communication, communication, communication. Mm-hmm. Own that.
Boom.
Next one. Creating space. I don't know why we did that.
Well, we did it.
But it felt good.
But it's true. It's got to sound like that.
It does.
Because that's true space.
That is.
It is. It's honoring and dedicating space to this experience. We talked about in the other episode with your self-pleasure practice for the men out there and for anybody in their self-pleasure practice. But creating space is what allows it to happen. You also might be stuck in a system of moving sexually where you don't create a lot of space. It just happens when you
roll
wake
over,
up.
you go to bed. Or wait, you wake up.
Wake up. Wow.
Sometimes it's like a snooze. You know, you're just like, I'm out, man. I'm done.
That's true. But yeah, you might be in a pattern of it just takes this tiny bit of time or whatever it is, and it's not authentically creating space and dedicating time to this.
Yes.
And then that's communication as well. It's like, let's create time for this tomorrow night. Or let's do this. Like have a piece of time and a chunk of space where you go in. You're like, we just get to play here.
So one of my former partners, if she listens to this, she's going to get so mad.
Hates this?
No, it's so funny because, and I'll share this. We just continuously share everything about ourselves. But she used to always ask me to do this. This was probably 3-4 years ago.
And you're like, no, just
where she
spontaneously.
Yeah, that's what
you said.
That's all I'd be like, no, I just want.
Jeez,
Louise, man. No, it was. She would say, "Oh, I really want to create space and make it a thing." And I didn't like that because it made me feel pressured. So there was this very interesting dynamic taking place, and I think that and maybe some men and women will be able to relate to this, but there's this part of opening up a woman, a queen, that can be a little intimidating. It's not something that we just innately know how to do. And I remember she'd be like, I want to set the playlist. I want to have scents. I want to have oils. I want to have the lighting perfect. I want you to take time to just like go down on me for so much time and just for us to explore. And I remember being like, whoa. Mm-hmm. Like, I like spontaneity. Mm-hmm. I like being like, I'm horny, you're horny, you feel that primalness. Yeah. And we had great sex. It wasn't like, our sex wasn't good, but we were really working on deepening it. And I resisted this a lot as a man. I really pushed back on the creating space because my program, my fear, my challenge was I wouldn't be able to execute the way that she wanted. Yeah. If I didn't have this surge of primal, desire, and it was more this softer, slower expression, I was like, am I going to be able to perform in the way that I want to perform
That makes sense because you couldn't, when you put something on the calendar, for instance, like you plan something out, it's like, how do I know I'm going to feel then?
Totally.
How can we do that? But like what we're saying, when the outcome is not performance or an orgasm or these things, it's like, it's just a time to play together.
But that was something that I hadn't tapped into yet. I was still in the mindset of, it was in the energy of, I need to make her come.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I need to be in my certain level of energy. If I'm not in that energy, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to avoid this.
Yeah.
But really the challenge there was that she needed that to open to a new level, right? That was something for her that she really needed. And so that's why I said, she's going to listen to this. She's like, mother,
you're doing it.
Now he's doing it. We're good friends still, and we've had some beautiful exchanges around this. But I just think that's a really important thing to highlight, is that was a relatively recent thing for me in the last 4 years that had to shift, and it's changed everything. But I wasn't able to start creating this space until I really truly understood the concept of no outcome. So these really are tied together in a beautiful way.
It's true. And the creating the space here is, really just creating time for that. But it's also not to get stuck in patterns with it, because that's usually what happens sexually. And that happened in my last partnership. It just became a pattern. Even if we had this space in the evening is dedicated to our sexual connection, it still feels like a pattern. It still repeats.
Yeah.
And
every Thursday night,
8 p.m. onwards, it's like, that's weird, right? And it can be beautiful to deepen, like you're saying, and also be able to embrace the animal. So this is like the safe container that's dedicated to just play and pleasure and to explore and have the time. And like I do in my current partnership, if we're feeling it, and this is what our agreement is, it's like we want to get into that primal and get after it. Like, I'll bend her over my dirt bike and we have sex and we get after it. Wild.
That made me.
I love it.
So I'm just turn the on now.
Right?
Bend her over your dirt bike and go. That's
the rain.
Brop, baby.
Dude, it's great. And it's like being open to both sides of it. It's like being able to bring forward that primal side. If that's an agreement you have, that might not work for some women and different experiences for some men too. Being able to have the agreement and be able to create the space to really, truly deepen. Being able to have a lot of time to really go into these things.
It's almost like duality.
Almost like that.
It's like you do both sides of the coin.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. I've totally forgot everything I was going to say, because now I can
bend her over a dirt bike. That's all you heard.
Ryan and Lauren having sex over dirt. You're both very attractive.
Thank you.
You turned me on.
Wow, thank you. And the dirt bike.
And mostly the dirt bike, but you two are great.
A dirty dirt bike.
Yeah.
Wash it.
I ride that dirt bike.
No. Dedicated to duality, basically, is what
beautiful.
We're talking about.
And so we're gonna bring it back, because we've gone right into right? We've gone right into let's get it.
The pleasure portal.
The pleasure portal. It takes you over. The Kundalini just starts moving, and you're gone. You're in. Don't neglect the foreplay. And this is something that I think plays in really, really well to what you were just sharing about dedicating the space, but not having an outcome in mind around the space. It's like remember when you were younger and you just had these make out sessions for hours, right? Remember when you found out what making out was like, and you were just like, you feeling each other up and groping and grabbing, and you were just like, I don't know what to do with this, but it feels so good. You can keep that. You can still do that. But the thing is like we get into this mode, I think. Well, I used to, at least. I got into this mode of like, no, I gotta go. It's time to get right to the center of the Tootsie Pop. I was like, I bit it. But you want to lick it to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop, so you enjoy the whole spectrum of flavor. Foreplay is licking the Tootsie Pop. Oh my God, this is so good.
Lick it, baby.
Just lick that Tootsie Pop. Oh my God.
Exactly.
Lick the Tootsie Pop. Move through each layers. Really savor the flavor. You want to take time, and you really want to start working with the energy of passion. Right? And I've found that the more emphasis I put on foreplay and building the energy, and most of the tools we're going to get into are about foreplay. the more emphasis I've put on foreplay and just exploring and playing and rolling with it, the sex has just got astronomically better. It's almost like the more foreplay, the more potent the sexual experience.
And I've done the side too, where I don't know if you've explored this as well, where I actually wait to touch the yoni completely. And the point is to not, and just tease around, find different spots behind the knee, behind the heart, behind like
the
licking,
big toe,
biting, big toenail, just clipping it.
Love that. I start by clipping all my ladies' toenails.
Like biting the neck and like devouring and getting into these different energetic spaces to feel, energy moving on the spine. And orgasms have happened just from me licking the back of my partner, licking her upper back,
the back
area.
of her knee specifically.
The back of the knee is a good spot, actually. Don't
neglect.
Have you played with it? That's a good spot. It's a sweet spot for a lot of women. But
I don't think I've ever licked
it
the back of my partner's. I've licked all over, like from feet to head.
Lick you from your head to your
toes. But I don't think I've ever been like, I'm gonna go into the back of your knee right now.
Did you move from the bed down to the
flow? Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Sweet. So
it was so good. I don't want to leave, but I gotta.
I know what your fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. Communication.
This is important. Ludicrous, right? It's ludicrous. Being able to do that, and that could be a fun game that you play, where it's like, I'm gonna wait to touch your yoni until you're begging me to do it. And I'm gonna lick and tease and play with everything around, and it's a great foreplay experience. But I love doing it because it helps me really see what my partner loves.
Yeah.
And even the energetics like you're talking about, foreplay doesn't have to be touching. Foreplay doesn't have to be physical. Foreplay can be just speaking in the ear, holding your hands above the body, the energetics around, the tease of about to do something and not doing it. Foreplay doesn't have to be just in the physical realm. There's so many ways to play with foreplay. And allowing all of these different things to move and seeing what really turns your queen on in different ways and giving space for that. Like we said, having that foreplay is fun as hell, because then it's not that you have to give foreplay, for hours every time, but once
4 hour minimum,
4 hours to play, you get
6 hour session every time.
Yeah, it must be. But once you know these little pockets and little nuggets of things that feel good, you get to go into them, and then you get to explore them while you're connecting sexually, and then beyond, and you create space, and then you go into it, and create space and go into it. But yeah, the foreplay in all the realms, not just the physical, but truly the energetic and the verbal and all these other spaces.
So I want to just mention something about the energy body, and we'll get more into this with the tools, but someone might be hearing this and be like, what do you mean you're not even touching them? And it like gets them aroused and excited. We are so connected to our physical bodies as individuals that we've forgotten that we have energy bodies that extend about 7 feet outside of our physical body. And there's layers to the energy body. And each of those layers plays into different emotions, different sensations, different states of our physical body's well-being. So, for instance, your emotional body has a layer. Your energetic body has a layer, right? All of these different layers of self, the spiritual body has a layer. When we start to move our hands through these layers and we really get into like a meditative state, you feel it. Because remember, we're talking about the energetics here. This isn't like a 5-step process on how to go down on your queen. This is reframing your whole perspective on what a sexual experience is. And if you're able to understand that it's an energetic exchange, then you're going to want to work with that energy. And I've seen it multiple times when you draw your hands down really close to the body but don't touch, and she's in the right state, she will go wild. Wild. And it's because her energy body picks up on the subtleties of yours, and it becomes magical. And so a great place to just start here is just when you're having foreplay, like just move your hands around her as she gets aroused and just see different areas of her body that respond, or a space where she goes like, when you put your hands there, because then you're picking up on a subtlety in her energy body that's going to give you a lot of information on how to start pleasuring her. And I kind of jumped ahead into the tools, but I just want, because people might hear energy body, and it's good. It's important to add some context. So just know that there's a full extension of the energy body beyond the physical. And there's energy workers that can make people have the wildest orgasms by not even touching the body, right? It's pretty powerful stuff, okay? So know that we're not just talking about some bullshit woo-woo, touch your energy body. It's like this is a scientifically proven part of our anatomy. It's just one that Western society glances over, but there's thousands and thousands of years of knowledge of this in Eastern practices.
Yes. So play with it.
So play with the energy
There's
body.
no right or wrong way of doing this. If there's consent and if there's care in this space, you get to explore all of it. And that's the beautiful thing. With consent and care with your partner, you get to just play with the. You might feel weird as hell your first time doing it. I know when I first did it, I was like, just like putting my hand over. It's like, so, and then I saw a reaction of the body where my hand was. I was like, oh my, okay. And then I was able to drop into it more and feel the intentionality with it. And she felt my intentionality, and then merging happens.
So it's perfect timing because the next thing is tools.
Tools, baby. Tools.
So I want to talk about the breath.
Let's go into breadth
because
of
this
breath.
The breadth of breath.
Yeah.
Because this in my opinion is the gateway to pleasure. We talked about it in the Harness Your Sexual Energy for Men episode about how the difference in breathing generally relates to, how quickly or how long it takes for a man to come. Your breath has an immense play or role in the level of pleasure that you and your partner feel. And my favorite way to start, is, you started talking about yab yum, right? Started talking about that in our last. I was like, no, don't
save it.
Don't save it. But it's starting in yab yum, so that means that you're both generally naked, but you don't have to be. You can be in sexy lingerie and stuff like that. But where as the man, I'll be sitting up with my spine up, and I'll have my partner's legs draped over me, and generally, our genitals are connected or very, very close. But we're basically chest to chest, face to face, and we're sitting on the bed. And my favorite thing to do is to just inhale and exhale each other's breath. Yes. So when she exhales, I inhale. And when I exhale, she inhales.
Let me ask you, I'm curious how you do this.
Yes.
Do you exhale out the mouth, inhale through the nose, and then make a kind of infinity sign like that? Or do you do just mouth or just nose? I'm curious what you do.
It definitely varies. It definitely varies because sometimes I'm like, I want to smell it.
Yeah.
And then I want her to smell it. But
going in with your mouth can be so beautiful, right? When your mouth start just barely touching the sensation, you're sharing a breath there.
And that's normally where it goes for me. But there's definitely times where I'm like, oh, I want to smell your breath. And I'm inhaling her breath to just really, really feel and smell it and get her essence, and it's a few minutes of that, just that. If that's the only thing you got from this, it's like you go into this hypnotic, powerful, lucid state. It might be because you're inhaling a bunch of each other's carbon dioxide as well. Could be. So it's kind of messing you up, but you get into this lucid state, and I also do it when I'm having sex. It's really powerful when you're having sex. But to just do that exchange of breath for 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 minutes, however long you want to do it, it's like it creates unison. Yeah. It creates a unified energetic connection between the two of you because your breath is your essence. It's your life force. So as you bring her life force into your body and she brings your life force into her body, you start to connect as one. And that is where this stuff starts to get crazy. Yeah. Is when you can start to merge your energy bodies.
Yeah. It actually feels that way. There's no separation of the two bodies. And yes, there's so many things in Yab Yum you can do as well.
Yes.
You can sit and eye gaze. If the breath feels like a big leap for now, I was like, I don't know about sharing breath just yet. You can eye gaze and just witness your queen. Look at them in the eyes and feel them. Just that intentionality in itself will often throw me into an hallucinogenic state. I just feel like I start merging with her there, and then breath will just start matching. Another thing I love to do is exhale at the same time, but sound. So just, and then it builds. Just like that.
Ooh,
let's get into Yab Yum, bro.
Let's show them what it looks like. Break the table.
It's worth it, though.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
that should be our podcast cover.
That should just us and Yab Yum. Who's on bottom? I'll hold you, bro.
No.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I would allow it.
We could do one leg on, maybe one leg each.
I think we just alternate.
Yeah, take turns.
One time's you, then it's me.
That's fine. Yeah.
We both got to be good at dom and sub.
For sure.
I do like being held sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Same. Yeah. So there's so many things, like even just in Yab Yum, that you can explore, and just being there with your partner and witnessing them. That is also one of my favorite things to get into that place. And like I said, I'll do it before I'm even aroused. Like I don't have to be hard at all. I just want to connect that way with our bodies. And the intention is not always to have sex after. It's just like, I want to sit like this and merge with you. And I've also done it where we're having sex and then we go into Yab Yum inside of her. And I have her inside and we just stop. The point is not to keep going and like, I'm going to stay hard. It's like, no, I stop, breathe into her while inside of her. And oh my God. That movement of breath, the merging that happens in that space, and then being able to move with that breath, it's incredible. And it just deepens what it means to be with your queen, to be inside of your queen, and to breathe with her, and to share that space and to merge in it. So Yab Yum, very big fan.
Is it to me? It changed the whole game.
It's Yab Yummy.
It's Yab Yummy.
Cool.
I was gonna go to another tool, but do you want to talk about one?
Cunnilingus. Cunnilingus is going down in your queen.
Cut a lingus.
You cut one lingus.
One lingus.
Not good.
Not good. Don't cut a lingus.
Just cut a lingus.
Yeah, definitely. That's the gateway, baby.
Yeah, we've talked about this many a time.
Every one of these is the gateway, man.
That's the gateway.
This is the gateway. That's the gateway.
Being able to have the experience of cunnilingus again without the outcome is so important. Because I know this from my current partner, she didn't like it at first because she had a previous partner that one previous partner was like, you're taking too long. And she was just like, okay. And like, didn't like it. And then another person.
You're taking too long.
Yes, unfortunately.
Bro.
It's a bitch.
Come on.
Don't like that.
And do some tongue ups, bro.
Yeah. And then the other person, it wasn't. She couldn't feel safe enough or comfortable enough to do it. And so it just stopped becoming a thing she liked. And I remember the first couple months we were together, she'd be like, oh, yeah, sure, but I'm not really into it. And we went into why.
Like, but I love eating pussy.
I was like, I really love it, though. And like, can we just explore this? And she was like, yeah, we can. And like, I just want to give space. Like, it can take however long. It can be without coming. It can be anything. I just want to taste you, feel you, like rub up on you and just like be with you in that way. I want to speak to her. Let's speak to your flower. And that, even just that intentionality allowed her to start deepening into it. Now it's something we do very often, but it's not about coming when you go down in your queen. It doesn't have to be. It's just about really deeply connecting. And it's such a place of pleasure, and it's so sensitive, and everyone is different. Everyone holds a different level of sensitivity and wants and need in that space. And it's beautiful to be able to be in that space with your queen, because it takes so much trust and surrender to just open up like that and to be down there like that and to move into it gently and to move into it in a way where you're teasing. Again, foreplay here. I know as men, we're like, yeah, just go ahead and suck my dick. It's great. Like, that's honestly a lot of men. It's like, yeah, just go for it. Yeah. And then we'll put that on the women too. It's like, all right, I'm just going to go for it and eat it out.
That's how you motorboat.
I motorboat with my tongue.
Yeah, that's the technique.
Don't take that one. Don't take that. That's more advanced. Don't take that one.
That's expert level. Jesus, it's a new thing. You're not used to it.
I put a cock ring on my tongue and it vibrates while I'm eating.
Dear Lord.
I've done that before. But what I'm saying is creating space for that in the sense of...
You have done that before.
In the sense of...
You put it in your throat.
Don't replicate what you want from a woman to your queen. Ask her what she would want. Ask her what she would like.
Female body's very different.
It's completely different, but it's so easy to be like, or you know, like
or
if you're aroused in an orgasm, it could look like this. It's linear. It's
Why don't you have a boner, babe?
Where's your cock?
Babe, you should be harder.
Wow, so dumb.
It's so dumb.
That's so stupid.
So one thing that one resource I really want to give men, a resource that really helped me was the book She Comes First.
Yeah.
That book is amazing. You know, for a lot of men, and they just, I'm sorry, and I've talked to friends about this, and they just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Read a fucking book.
Seriously.
How do we learn anything? Read a book
and talk to her while you're doing it.
But that can be confronting for men, right? A lot of men don't like to be like, "Hey, how do I eat your yoni?" It's like read a book, hire a tantric coach.
That's true.
Look up a fucking YouTube video. Like, I guarantee you, there's diagrams. There's so many things. The thing for me is like you gotta learn the anatomy of the yoni.
Oh, of course.
You gotta learn the anatomy of the clit. So people are like, "Where's the clit?" It's like, the clit is like a horseshoe of spongy material that goes all around the vaginal wall. Like it goes around the labia, it goes around everywhere. It's like you can stimulate the clit by touching around it.
Yeah.
But most men don't. Most men, I couldn't find, man. I gotta lift the hood, and it's right. It's like no. It's like there's so many parts of the yoni that men don't know about.
And they're doing too much a lot of the time.
And it's too harsh or whatever. It's like, I'm just going to keep rubbing the clit, keep rubbing. It's like, no, you touch the clit a little bit, and then you go and you massage around. You touch the labia. You put a little finger inside. You come back out. You touch the clit. It's like playing an instrument.
Yeah. But the thing why I say communicate is because, yes, you find out the anatomy. That's really important, the baseline structure.
Yes.
But being able to, after the fact, talk about it before the fact. What do you really like? Like, how can I really be able to explore?
What felt good?
And they might not know and be like, I've never had a good experience with it. But when I do this with my finger,
exactly.
And that's why also co-masturbation is so beautiful.
Oh, so
being
good.
able to watch your queen touch herself, if she's into that, being able to witness that and being able to see, it's really gentle, or you like to do circular, or like up and down, or you like to go inside while you rub the clit. There's so many different ways to navigate that and that find pleasure with her.
Totally.
And so being able to try these things out and being able to even mess these things up and be like, oh, I didn't do it right.
Totally.
And that's okay. Let's keep trying. Let's see what comes up here and let's create space for it. But again, not making it a performance thing.
Yeah.
But it's basic to figure these things out. Go into this.
This is important stuff.
This is so important. This is like a baseline. Like, it's so important to be able to go down on your queen.
And to pleasure her, like, it's going to result in so much pleasure for you.
Oh my God,
it
is.
When she starts going wild, the floor opens for so much stuff, God, right? It's so key. So, you know, I just, what Ryan's saying about communication is everything. And the thing is and this is one thing I think as men we really gotta swallow. I had to, is like, you're not gonna be good. You gotta be a disaster until you're a master. That's the way that this goes. But you got to break down this idea of needing to be something to actually become something. That's the whole system that we're in. So going in and being like, what's Ryan saying? Like, what felt good? What did you like? And if she's like, oh, you know, if it's too, you're stimulating me too much, or you're putting too much on the clit, it's like, okay, cool. Like, what about down here? What about over here? And then she's like, oh yeah, that feels really good. And then it's like, it's not like, I didn't mean to, you know, it's because your clit's too sensitive. You know, it's like, no.
So but yeah, that does happen for a lot of women. They get that experience.
It gets overstimulated.
Being able to have that safety, and as queens listening, being able to communicate that.
Must communicate.
And being able to say that and being able to speak that up, because that can be difficult as well. But prioritizing your pleasure and being like, my pleasure is worth it. You need to know that your pleasure is worth it and being able to communicate that. Because so often, unfortunately, the man's pleasure is prioritized. And generationally, it has been. It's like, that's why She Comes First is such an important book.
Yeah.
And so many things around this are so important, because the man's pleasure has been the priority. And so that gets passed along through generations. So we're cutting that shit. We're making it a priority. Her pleasure is priority. And connecting to that is so important.
And so, another tool that's an extension of this that I love, and this is kind of a two-part tool.
Okay.
The first one is just saying, I love doing this for my queens is saying, tonight's all about you. Tonight isn't about me. I'm not even, I can't promise I won't get hard, right? But I'm not going to come. I don't need anything from you. I just want to take time to pleasure you. And what my favorite way to, like, that alone, I'm telling you, that alone is one tool. Women are like, what? Like, and it also can be confronting. Some women can be like, well, I don't know, this feels like too much pressure. And then it's like, well, no, there's no pressure here. It's like what I use to mitigate that pressure is I just say, I just really want to explore you. So that I don't need you to come. I don't need any outcome. I just want to put on some nice music, light some candles. And this leads to the second tool. I just want to massage like your womb. I want to massage around your yoni. I want to massage the insides of your legs. I want to massage your hip flexors, your pelvic floor, your perineum. Like I want to get in there and massage areas that you might not normally get massaged by people. Because there's this element of trust and you go in with this beautiful reverence and it's not like I go in and it's like, okay, I'm going to like stick my fingers inside. It's like, no, like I'm going to massage. And if it gets to a point where I touch the labia or anything and it gets to a point where it's like, it's inviting me in, then maybe I'll do a little internal massage. But it's really about creating space to just explore her yoni, which is going to result in a ton of communication, which is going to give you a ton of codes on how to support her, which is going to lead to some amazingly powerful, juicy experiences for you both.
Two very important things there. I mean, you said lots of important things, but two things I want to highlight is being able as a man to have sessions like this and not come. So important. Need to be able to do that. Need to be able to be like, yeah, even if you have sex, hey, I'm not going to come this time. I don't want to. I'm going to.
This is about you.
I'm going to retain my seed. I want to connect to you. I want to make this about your experience here. And I want to connect with you. I want to feel your pleasure and being able to own that and do that. The second thing I want to highlight is the perineum massage. So good. And it's important. The perineum is that space kind of between the butthole and the yoni. Getting that little space there, there's a little nugget there that you can massage and connect to, and that's an energy center.
It's your root.
That's your root.
It's where you trap fear, anxiety. Like that's
and
where
when you can rub that space and when you connect to that, it's often that women have never experienced a massage there, even from themselves. And so it's often that you can rub that space and cause complete arousal, sometimes an orgasm, but just connecting to that space to support the softening, to support the body relaxing into you and feeling her energy. Because it's often with my partner, when I feel her breathe and I'm massaging the perineum, I can feel her body breathe. And like we said with the energetic body, it's a way to start connecting to it and be like, I'm touching the body, but I can see and feel the energy in a certain way. But it connects to it where you can have the same motion as if you're rubbing her clit, but on the perineum, and it moves that energy similarly. And you realize, wow, I don't need to be all up on her yoni to give her pleasure. There's so many other portals here. So I wanted to highlight that because the perineum massage, man, it's such an underutilized and unspoken little tool and place we get to play with that I love.
Yeah.
And it's you can actually feel it soften. Like you can actually notice a lot of the time, and not with everybody, but a lot of the time you can notice it's a little hard nugget. And as you move with it, massage it and give space for it, it softens. And usually that yoni will match the energy of the perineum because it's in proximity and it's that same energy center. And so that is also very beautiful where you get an external kind of sense of the softening internally.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Massive code.
Yeah.
And so, one thing we really wanted to move into as we're kind of wrapping all of this up is we really wanted to move into the full breadth of expression. Talking about massaging someone's perineum, that's your root. That's where your fear is trapped. That's where your anxiety is trapped. There's so much emotional baggage that comes into these areas. And as you move into these levels of pleasure and this level of sexual maturity, it opens up the whole kind of field for a wild variety of expression to come to the surface. And, you know, we were talking about our partners crying a lot during sex, and that it's not crying necessarily from a place of feeling sadness, even though I've had that where there's been actual trauma release during a sexual experience, but it's generally from a place of so much overwhelming pleasure and gratitude. Because when a man can hold this, it changes her whole perspective on who you are as a king. It changes her whole perspective on how she can move through life, how she can navigate through life. It opens up a whole new level of safety, which, let's be honest, most women don't have in the world now, because we live in such a place, such a patriarchal society. Women have to become tight buttholed men to survive. And it's like, as you move into this, you open her up to her femininity, and that causes a lot of emotion. It causes sometimes screaming, sometimes crying, sometimes sounds that might not be what porn deems as hot. Yeah. But when a woman is really truly in her pleasure and she's truly moaning, it doesn't sound like this. It doesn't sound like this high pitch. It can be from this like, oh, like it can be a very intense sound. So it's really important to start reframing, how we see expression, and to open up the field of, some really, really cool stuff's going to start happening, and it's beautiful, but you gotta prepare yourself for that, because it's a real outcome.
Yeah, and be able to hold that, be able to be in that space and be her pillar in this experience. And it can look like sounding if that feels good for you. And also you're just inviting them, like, and just really allowing sounds. Honestly, it's often the women that sound and not the men. So even as a man, to allow sounds if that feels good for you. And it invites safety in there. It's like, oh, we can move. We can be loud. That could turn into tears. That could turn into laughter. That could turn into screams. That could be so many different things, but creating space for that. I mean, I've had so many different experiences just with my current partner of she'd be crying, and then we would pause, and then she'd be like, oh, yes, this is so beautiful. I want more. And we'd go back into it. We'd be crying, and then we'd stop. We'd be like, I just need space. This is overwhelming. And we've had also where we were having sex and a past life experience came up, and she went into full like intensity of like remembering that moment, and we needed to stop. And then we ended up going back into it. She was like, wow, this is so amazing. But different things, so many different things can happen when you're in the full breadth of it, when you're actually giving yourself the capacity to hold anything that can come up, anything that can occur, and not needing it to look a certain way, but allowing all of it to be held. It's such a beautiful invitation for your queen to be like, I got you. No matter what you're experiencing, no matter what's happening, I got you. And we can always stop. We can always pause. And if you love it, we can keep going. But all of it to come up, because so much can come up in that space. You're completely open. You're just like an open vessel, especially when you get into these energetic works, you get into this, and I know, it goes even beyond hallucinogenics. It goes beyond. Like
some of the most heightened states I've ever been in.
Oh my God. Sex. Almost every time
more than plant
now.
medicine, breath, like everything.
Dude, we blast off. It just feels like we just went on a mushroom journey. And after, it's like, oh my God. Like, it's this amazing thing. And so I wanted to get into that, the after, if you're clear on this part, or is there anything else you wanted to share? Because it goes into it.
Yeah. I do have something else I want to share, but we can it'll be aftercare.
Because in this, with the, like if you're opening yourself up like that, for instance, for the queen, she's opening herself, and you've really given her permission to open up like that. The aftercare is so important. That's the last part here, because all of this is important, leading up, the build up, the conversation, communication, but how you're able to close the container, how you're able to give space after is so important, because a lot of men just have sex, roll over, go to sleep. That's like the standard like idea of how a man has sex. But being able to have aftercare, like she's completely open. She's an open vessel at this point. Basically, like, whatever's around, she'll kind of take on. That'll happen if she's really in that place of blossoming. So to be able to hold her, to be able to listen to her, to be able to be with her and be present with her, not just go on to the next thing, and be able to communicate if that feels good in that moment. Have these conversations of the experience of what it was like and how that felt, and be able to go into that naturally. But as I noticed with these kind of more blast off experiences where it feels like we're journeying, we'll be like, oh, let's go catch sunset now. And it's like, well, actually, let's give it a minute, because like, how open do you feel? Do you feel like you're okay to be around people, or do you feel like you want to honor being here? And honestly, even just giving those options to your queen can feel so good. It's like, oh my God, thank you for like seeing me and asking that. And that's been such an invitation for my partners. Like, I actually want to stay here right now for like just maybe 10, 15 minutes and just lay here and just be with my body, because it's a lot. Or, yeah, I'm ready to go. I feel amazing and I feel good and I feel like I can be around people and it feels beautiful. But that aftercare and communication are so important. Yeah.
You sum that up perfectly. There's two things I wanted to share. The first is, some women might be listening to this and be like, I don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to address that. And that's a really important piece of the puzzle. It takes work to learn yourself. And so, the last episode we did on how to harness your sexual energy for men, there's a lot of codes in there for women as well. Right. And so it is, we do, name it and label it for men, just because we don't have the anatomy of the feminine body. So we can't talk about, harnessing sexual energy from a feminine perspective in the same way. But there's a lot of codes in there that will apply to you as well. Like what Ryan said at the beginning of this, if you can't pleasure yourself, you won't be able to pleasure your partner. It's the same way. So as a woman, it's really important for you to do that investigation yourself as well. And so as a man, if your partner's like, well, I don't really know what I want, or I don't really know how to communicate, self-pleasure, right? Just take time to sit next to each other and pleasure yourselves, but have fun with it. Masturbation is not something that we should be ashamed of. It's not something we should hide. I've chatted with women in the past who have said, oh, I'd be mortified if my partner came in the door and saw me pleasuring myself. And I was like, what? I was like, why? I was like, fuck, if I come home and my queen's pleasuring herself, like, I'm like, girl, get it. Like, can I come in? And, it's
shame around masturbation.
It's a beautiful thing. And
we talked about yesterday.
There's so much shame around masturbation. So, self-pleasure, right? Really, really work through that and explore yourselves. That's why masturbation is so important. You got to do it. And then the second thing that I really wanted to share here is for the dudes, for the bros, for the men, the brothers, is women and the feminine body is very slow to warm up. The male body is very quick. It's like, let's go. It's challenging sometimes to navigate that. And so for me, there's that immediate rush when you get horny and you just like, you get hard. You're like, all right, let's and it's like, no, we gotta let that simmer. And that might look like you losing your erection, right? And it might look like you not being like, oh, I'm not as horny anymore, because you gotta let that animal chill.
Taming the beast.
Just like in the last episode. And taking time to really warm her up. I was watching a guy on YouTube, a tantric teacher, who was talking about, making women come. And he was like, yeah, it takes time. Like, most men are like, they try and just like enter, and then they try and continuously until she comes. And we're totally going to get banned off YouTube with this episode. but it's like you keep going and you never come out. And he was like, no, like if you're getting too much to your stimulus, pull out, go down, give her cunnilingus, massage her, make out. You don't even have to be inside of her. Like, take time to do other things, stimulate her in other ways. He had this hilarious story about how when he'd get too close to climax, he'd take a moment and be like, babe, I'll be right back. And he'd just go to the other side of the room and do a headstand. That was his thing. He's like, I did a headstand for 2 minutes.
Move the
to
blood,
just like
baby.
Move the blood, right? And then he'd jump back in and she'd keep pleasuring herself. They had toys set up.
Yeah.
Like, it was a whole experience. So, the important thing that I had to learn here was that I didn't have to insert and then have her come. It was like I could insert, I could pull out, I could massage her, we could laugh, we could play, we could giggle, we could have more sex, and then it's like it's this dance. It takes time. So give yourself the space, and you don't want to give yourself the space with an idea of that creating an outcome. We don't want outcomes. You want to give yourself the space to just enhance pleasure. And the more you create space to enhance pleasure, the more fun you're both going to have and the more satisfied you're both going to feel. So I really wanted to add that as a closing bit.
Always play with it. Play with the pleasure.
Always play with it,
baby.
Stay playing with it.
Stay playing. Okay. Love it. Beautiful.
Amazing.
There you go.
As always.
Stay
lit.
Woo!